3.32 kilometres long. 14 corners, and a lot of them compressed into a short part of this racetrack. A little bit of elevation change and flow that can challenge the drivers, especially through turns 2, 3, 4 and 5. It's complex, it's really technical. To get a good lap here is hard work, and it does promote close racing. Overtaking hotspots, turn 1 of course, and turn 12, the braking zone at the end of the back straight. The Pirelli Porsches are on that great racetrack now, and they're rolling around for the start of their first race of the weekend. Steve Brooks on pole. Daniel Angus in a good position in the championship after round 1 in second. Stephen Sullivan out of 3. Multiple classes in this field. We'll explain those to you over the course of the race meeting, and 3 Porsche Pirelli races coming your way. Basically, if you have a Porsche, you can race it, and that's part of the appeal of this great championship. The cars are lining up. Steve Brooks on pole position right of screen, and he is doing double duty this week in Somerset GT New Zealand as well, so he is sharp as attack. But there are Porsche Boxsters, there are Porsche 944s on the grid as well, and there is going to be great racing throughout the field. Ronan Murphy's making his way upstairs from below. Delighted to say that an expert with this category, Stu Owers, is going to join us up here in the commentary box as well for the Pirelli Porsches this weekend. We're getting set for the first race start in the Next Gen New Zealand Championships, and it's a Porsche race that launches away, and big wheel spin from Brooks from pole position, and he's swamped around the outside at turn 1. Big field of Porsches, GT3 Cup cars at the front. Then you go back to the Boxsters, and then the Porsche 944s are right in the middle of that mix. Everyone navigates that long left-hander at turn 1, and then the sweepers through 2 and 3. And the run down and around goes the leader. Big spin drama early as racing gets underway at Taupo. He spun to the left of the road, and that Porsche is stuck. He will be right at the very back of the field. Stu, welcome to you. That's a wild start to round 2 of Pirelli Porsche.
Oh, isn't it? And he's leading our points at the moment, so he's going to have a lot of work to make up there. He's very, very obviously disappointed with their cold tyres and just caught him out completely.
So Daniel Angus spins back. Meanwhile, the battle is on for the lead. So from pole position, Brooks burst into a little bit of wheel spin and struggled. The 69 car got around and took the race lead, and now they're battling on the run-up. This is the braking zone to the hairpin, and that 992 GT3 Cup car sweeps across. So Ronan, it took a couple of corners, but the pole sitter's finally got himself back in front.
Yeah, and I know Steve Brooks, he'll be very disappointed with that start, but he's made amends and he's managed to take the lead by the back straight. So he'll be pretty happy with that, and he's just going to put his head down now. He's a hardcore racer, Steve is, so he's going to be looking to try and extend that gap.
So Stephen Sullivan in the 69 car runs second. There's a battle on for 3rd and 4th place. Everyone gets themselves sorted out on a really busy opening lap, but we'll be tracking the progress of Brooks as he charges his way out in front of this race. Sullivan second, Angus is 3rd, actually Robert Dong, sorry, 3rd, Nicholas Cutfield in 4th place, then Stephanie Chambers. Daniel Angus has got some work to do in this one. So if you're unfamiliar to Pirelli Porsches, this is a category, Stu, that's been around New Zealand for a long time, and the rule is if you own a racing Porsche, you can race it.
Look, that's right. It's been around for 37 years now. And interestingly enough, you just see on screen there, the car in front of the one there, Robert Dong, has been racing in the series for about 27 years now. He's won the championship a couple of times. Very, very experienced guy, an optometrist from Lower Hutt. But he just doesn't now. He doesn't really worry too much about, oh, look, we've got a replay there of Daniel Angus going around. So he'll be kicking himself. His ears will be glowing inside that helmet.
Yeah, and it just looks like he just must not have got enough tyre temp in those tyres. You know, in a Porsche, it's very hard to get. You've got to work really hard, real hard work rate on those warm-up laps to get the temperature in the tyre up to the operating window. So it just looked like a bit of a, you know, young bloke cold tyres moment there, and unfortunately didn't end so well for Daniel Angus.
Probably also rattled by the start a wee bit there, seeing Steve go up and smoke it. For Steve Brooks, that was his first time he's ever had a standing start in one of these cars. And they're tricky to get off the line. They're a bit like a dragster, massive tyres at the back. And if you get it wrong, you either smoke them up or you bolt them down, one or the other.
Yeah, he certainly lit it up, and it might have looked pretty cool for the crowd, but wouldn't have been cool inside that cockpit or for James Marshall, motorsport guys on the side of the pit wall there. But he's made amends, and now he's got a pretty comfortable lead so far over Steve Sullivan. So as we can see there, Steve Brooks coming through turn 3.
Yeah, the huge rate of knots, the closing speed of a Cup car versus a 944 Cup car or one of the Boxsters as well. That was Tim Robinson getting past in the 777 car, the braking zone at turn 12. It's such a big stop, but Ronnie actually carried quite a lot of speed into that left-hander, that first part of that final complex.
Yeah, massively, and down there at turn 12, it's by far the deepest, hardest braking zone on the circuit. So much commitment, but if you get it right, you get the curbs, get them nice, get over onto the other side of the track there, all leads up for a good exit onto the front straight there.
So Daniel Angus making his way through. We'll track his progress, but this is class racing as well, Stu, so we need to keep an eye on the Boxsters. And speaking of, there's some dramas for Simon Thurlow in the 112 car. Bit of an Apple tribute livery on that. But this is racing within a race, isn't it?
Very much so. And in fact, the two cars on screen there, you see the little Boxster with the red roof. So he's the fastest Boxster out there at the moment. That's Ian Hill. And behind him, the 944, which I know you're a bit of a fan of. And he's the quickest in that class. Tim Robinson from a Hawke's Bay, followed by the mustardy coloured car just behind him. So yes, so they're all racing for class wins basically. And the thing is, you can win this championship from any one of the classes. So if you tend to be the most consistent driver, you've had the most wins, you'll win the whole championship.
It's a great format. Gives you an opportunity to race at a budget level, but still compete for the big prize at the end of the season, which is awesome. And
a lot of these guys move up eventually. So a lot of these Boxster drivers, they move up, they buy an older Cup car and then a newer Cup car, and they sort of graduate up through there.
The old saying, wherever there's motorsport, there is a Porsche. And this is absolutely proof of that. It's great to see the 944s in the mix. So Tim Robinson leading the way in the 944 battle. Daniel Angus continuing his charge through the field. He is the second fastest car on the racetrack. Steve Brooks, as you would expect, in the 992 GT3 Cup car, pulling away out in front from Stephen Sullivan. Stephen's got young Ayrton Hodson on the headset this weekend. He's been racing in Porsche Michelin Sprint Challenge in Australia and doing some driver coaching. And they're kindred spirits. They both come from a speedway background. So they've got something to talk about when they're at the skids and then when they're at the circuit racing as well.
Anybody that comes from that background's got a huge advantage because they're not scared of getting a little bit sideways. And if you watch these little Boxsters, they're out there on road tyres, essentially. So they have to move them around. They're not like this, driving a car on slicks. You move them around, you slide them around. That's where the speed is.
Yeah, and as we can see there, the 832, Jacob Bellamy. I was actually talking to his dad earlier in the week, and he was saying so he's come from the E46 BMW Spec class racing into the little Boxsters here. So
and karting before that, which is a
exactly.
fantastic, as you know, fantastic background. And he is just carving up. So he's actually in a 2.5 Boxster class. The cars in front of him are 2.7s. So he is leading that class and cleaned up down at Manfield last time round.
Yep, no, he's doing a great job out there. And like you're saying, you know, the karting background is incredibly valuable, especially for racecraft and understanding what it takes to set up a pass, complete it, and try and pull away.
Guys, this is a really good battle between Robert Dong and Nicholas Cutfield for third and fourth place. Two different generations of Porsche GT3 Cup car. The 991 generation in front, the 996, which is a great car. H-pattern gearbox in those things well before they went sequential. They were the real launching pad for one-make Porsche racing in this part of the world, both in Australia and New Zealand, with Porsche Cup NZ, which the great Craig Baird dominated for 5 or 6 years.
And Jim Richards before that, in fact. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, as you say, a lot of hard work going on in that car behind. So the car on screen now, that's the newer generation car, paddle shift, ABS brakes, all that sort of thing. That car you can see there on screen. The second car is H-pad, heeling and towing, and it's hard work in that car. But Nick Cutfield from the Hawke's Bay doing a fantastic job to hang on to a previous champion of our class, Robert Dong there.
Nice part of the world, Hawke's Bay. A few luminaries in our part of the world live up there. 3.6 litre in the 996 as well, so it's down on horsepower relative to the 991 in front, about 45-50 horsepower difference. So the 996 looks really strong through all the twisty bits, and the 991 pulls away down the back straight.
Yeah, it's got, as you know, bigger, torquier motor, exactly right, just the extra horsepower, and that's the advantage you've got. Very hard to get past a car like that, isn't it, when they've got that straight line handling?
Yeah, especially at a track like this where there's a couple of especially the back straight, incredibly long straight, but then the front straight as well. When you've got that horsepower advantage, it makes it very difficult for a lower horsepower car, even if they've got an advantage through the corners, to try and make a pass. But as we can see out the front, Steve Brooks, he's got a 32-second lead so far after lap 5 in this race. So he is charging, and he's pulling that gap longer and longer as the laps count down.
And guys, the other thing is Daniel Angus is rapidly catching that battle for 3rd and 4th place. So he was 2 and a bit seconds a lap quicker last time by. So he's hauling them in. He will get to them eventually as we reach half race distance. But we'll go back and have a look at this fight with Kelly McEwen and Jacob Bellamy and Ashton McCoffin in the back there. This is a really good fight in the Boxsters.
So Ashton McCorn and Mark McCorn are an interesting little story. Father and son, both racing in exactly the same cars, little 2.5 Boxsters. The first round, Mark had the upper hand, and the dad had the upper hand, which is a relief to all the dads out there. But we look on screen there, and as we see the lights flashing, the cup car coming through, but Ashton, his son, has got the upper hand this time round. So going to be an interesting conversation around the lunch table later on.
Yeah, and Steve Brooks is already starting to put a few of the little Boxsters a lap down. So he's this is going to be interesting to watch, see him weave his way through the traffic, try and keep it clean, but he's doing a great job so far. And we've actually seen as well on the last lap there, Robert Dong and Nicholas Cutfield were actually they were 3rd and 4th fastest cars on the track, but critically they were faster than Steve Sullivan. So all that pressure from Nicholas Cutfield's actually giving Robert Dong a bit of a hurry up, and
pushing him along.
Yeah, and they're catching up to Steve Sullivan. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds in the second half of this race.
And Steve Brooks is lucky he's got 40 seconds to the tune, because he got to the Boxsters at exactly the wrong point of Taupo Motorsport Park, because through all the twisty part, and to pass you have to go offline, so your tyres pick up the marbles that have been left from other categories, and it will take a little while to clear that up. But he's negotiated that battle pack now and continues his march forward. Stephen Sullivan still second. Daniel Angus, by the way, spinner on the opening lap, has climbed back up to 5th position and is still hauling in that battle for 3rd and 4th, and he's not far away from the back of that. Before this race is done, he will get there as we go back and have a look at the Boxsters boxing on the run down towards turn 12.
But look, just to pick up on your point, you're dead right. If you're the closing speed of these cup cars is huge. So if you know you've got no pressure from behind, you imagine a pack of 3 cup cars fighting. You've got to take every opportunity to get past, whereas he can relax and just think, I'll just wait for half a second, go for it. So it takes the pressure off the Boxsters as well as the cup cars, of course.
Stephen touched on at the start of this that this is round 2 of the Pirelli Porsche Championship. So round 1 was at Manfield Circuit, Chris Amon, a couple of weeks ago. Just bring us up to speed briefly with what happened there. An exciting round, I understand.
Yeah, well, look, the Boxsters are always our stars in terms of, you know, the battles they put on, the door handle racing. Fantastic to watch. Everybody came out there without a scratch, which is always a relief for me.
Oh, big drama stew down here. So this is that battle we've been talking about.
Yes.
And there was a mistake under brakes going into turn 12. The car tried to swap ends and it almost opened the door. And in fact, the door could be open on the run down towards turn 1.
And all this is doing is bringing Daniel Angus back into it. He'll be loving this, watching this happen up ahead. So mistake from Robert Dong also slowed Nicholas Cutfield up there, and now it's looking more and more like Daniel Angus is going to be right up the back of these two in the next half a lap or so.
Well, while these two are battling, of course, that's exactly what Daniel Angus needs, doesn't he? Now, you see those two battling up ahead, and that gives him that snuff to just keep pushing hard.
Yeah, and based on his pace, so he just did a 1:34.6 on that last lap. So he was actually faster than Steve Brooks on that last lap. It was the fastest car on track. Obviously, Steve's dealing with some traffic up ahead, but that's also a good sign for him and his chase to not only get past, hopefully, in his case, get past these two guys, but then he's going to want to be setting after Steve Sullivan.
And I think that seeing Daniel Angus coming up the mirror is incentive for Robert Dong too, thinking, I better get on with it. Here he comes, and he's right behind Robert Dong now. But Nick Cutfield's got a little break there, so it's so well done.
I think he's got an issue.
Something, he missed a gear or something. Easy to do in that H-pattern gearbox.
And very, very wide Cutfield up at the hairpin. But there's a couple of different lines you can take, but there's a big spin on the exit. All that good work undone. What a shame, because that was a terrific fight.
He was doing a brilliant job in that car, as you say, massively down on power, down on track width, handling, the whole bit.
Well, Stu, I think it shows how hard he was having to drive that thing through the first basically 2/3 of the lap to keep in front, so he had some kind of margin down the back straight where he's literally outgunned relative to the cars around him.
Yeah, great call. Yes, and I guess maybe he just overheated those slicks, just pushing, and he's just finally overdone it.
To be honest, I actually think that mistake was brought on by what happened on the back straight there. He's missed a gear or had something, and generally in a lot of cases when that happens, it's very easy to panic. So then he's lost a spot, probably come through there going, oh, I need to make that spot back up. And unfortunately, he's gone to put all that horsepower down in the Porsche and lit it up, and unfortunately ended up in the grass. But we saw him get going again, so now he's got another opportunity to try and chase these guys back down. Yeah,
and he didn't lose much in the way of track position. So he lost 2 spots, which is unfortunate, but quite a big gap back to the next car, which is one of the Boxsters. So he will live to fight another day, and we'll rue that one. I'm sure it'll be on the replay back in the garage when he gets back. So this is where this was all happening. Angus on the outside down here at turn 1.
Yeah, and he's actually done the old switcheroo there on Robert Dong and gotten back up the inside of him, and then they've gone too wide through turn 2 there. So that was a great little battle there between those guys, and he's now starting to extend that gap a bit in his chase after Steve Sullivan, who's about 9 seconds up the road. So he's got a bit of time to find.
Sorry, there's Simon Thurlow, the meat and the sandwich there. It's always awkward when you catch them right in the middle of a corner. You get such a... Although, having said that, the Boxsters through the infield here, just as quick as the Cup cars, even though they're on road tyres, they've got that magnificent balance, and they fly through there. Obviously, as soon as you get to any sort of straight, then they've gone.
Yeah, and that sort of that blend of probably lightweight as well. The Boxsters will be a fair bit lighter than the big heavy high horsepower Cup cars, and that really is the trade-off. You've got obviously a lot of horsepower in a straight line, but you've got to also be able to manage that weight through the corners.
Exactly, yep. I just looked at the Boxsters, just road cars essentially. So it wasn't long ago that these cars would be parked in someone's driveway and been polished carefully on a Sunday, and now they're out on the racetrack.
That's the joy of Pirelli Porsches, and what an opening race it's been for round 2 of their championship. And for Steve Brooks, he'll be a busy boy today. He's got an hour in this car later on. He gets the checkered flag and takes race 1, the first race in next gen. A little milestone there. He will be forever enshrined in the record books of this new look New Zealand championship. Really exciting to be part of it, and a great drive. Yes, he was comfortably the quickest car, but he had to work through the traffic in that race, and that was pretty decisive. And meanwhile, Daniel Angus has had to have the comeback drive. So Stephen Sullivan, he's going to end up second across the road, some of the 944s across the line.
Yeah, and even there, Daniel Angus is actually, he's carved about 3 seconds out of Steve Sullivan on that last lap. So even though, the race is technically over, obviously the winners crossed the line, there is still a little bit of a battle going on to see. I'm sure Daniel Angus isn't going to want to give up until he crosses that line to try and chase down Steve Sullivan. But as we can see here, Steve Sullivan's coming through, and wow, Daniel Angus has really closed that gap. He's not far off Steve Sullivan there, but I think Steve's going to have this one in the bag as he comes across the line.
There's Tim Robertson there in the 944, so he's the winner in that class.
Exactly, and then we've got the Boxster with the red roof coming through. That's Ian Hill, who's the winner of the 2.7 class. And then we talked about Jacob Bellamy before. He's won our 2.5 Boxster class. So a lot of happy people there.
Do they call the 2.7 cars the big block? Big block Boxsters?
The big block Boxsters,
those extra
yes.
200 cc's make all the difference.
An extra 20 horsepower or something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, great racing. What an entertaining way to kick off, and looking forward to how the remainder of this weekend plays out. It's a great looking field, really well presented and really well driven. Some good comeback stories on the run through that as we confirm the results in race 1 of Pirelli Porsches. So Brooks with a comfortable win in the end in the 992. Stephen Sullivan, Daniel Angus carved his way through after spinning on the opening lap. Robert Dong was next, then Nick Cutfield and Stephanie Chambers. Tim Robinson, we talked about winning in the 944s. And then some great racing all the way down through the field in the Boxsters, who put on a great show. We don't have enough cameras to show you all the battles going on in a Pirelli Porsche race because they happen from start to finish. So here are the highlights. It was a smoky start for Steve Brooks, launching a 992 for the first time in his career from a standing start. So the fact he only dropped back to 4th position was big enough. And then early on in the race, a hairy moment as the field sorted themselves out, and that was Daniel Angus Ronan spinning on the run into turn 4.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for him. He would have seen this clear track open up in front of him and go, oh, such an opportunity. But then he just, unfortunately, maybe not, like we said earlier, guys, maybe not enough, quite enough temp in those tyres, and he unfortunately looped it. But yeah, we saw off the start there, Steve Brooks had that quite smoky start, and I'm sure he would have enjoyed coming back through the field and passing a few cars.
This was that big moment in the battle between all the different generations, slightly different 911 Porsches, all battling over. Steve Brooks had to deal with some lap traffic through that. It didn't go all his own way, but ultimately he becomes the first race winner in the Next Gen NZ Championships presented by Repco, and the first win of the weekend in Pirelli Porsches. That was cool, really good, and they've got 2 more to go tomorrow, so how does that play out?
Yeah, and a half-hour race in the afternoon, so yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Lots of battles within battles again. Enjoyed that?
Yeah, it was great. It was great to see some action. We had, you know, probably wasn't expecting it as early as the 3rd corner, but hey, it's that's the beauty of motor racing. You know, things happen on a whim, and certainly was great to see Daniel Angus come back through to snatch a podium there at the end.
You've raced in one in these cars. They are not easy to drive.
No, these, especially the Porsche Cup cars, they are a hardcore race car, and they require a lot of skill and a lot of knowledge to be able to understand how to get the best out of them. So especially, unfortunately, there, and I'm sure Daniel Angus can make sure he doesn't make that mistake again, because he had a great opportunity ahead of him to try and take the victory. But I'm sure he'll look into that and fix it for tomorrow.
And as we wait to go down and hear from our winners, that's big for championship for him as well, because he's in a good position after round 1.
Exactly. But look, just to pick up on that point, look, these Cup cars are easy to drive at about 8/10. You know, that last sort of half a second, 1 second lap, they are on the edges. So factory race car, quite tricky things to handle, and Daniel's still getting used to that.
So not far away is GTR NZ. We're going to be having some great racing from them over the weekend. In the meantime, let's celebrate that Pirelli Porsche race. Here's Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Jacob Bellamy won the Porsche class in his little boxer, mate. That must be a nice way to continue into round 2 of the Pirelli Porsche series, buddy.
Yeah, everything went to plan, got a good start, and just got away from the boys at the start, so that was a good start.
How hard is it being in these boxes and watching the big boys go out in front, but you know that you're actually racing in your own class against the other boxers?
Oh, yeah, it's pretty scary. They come up on you pretty fast.
But good start. Points-wise, how strong is that for you now going forward?
Yeah, good. I've only got a second, so all the rest of them are first, so good for the rest of the round.
Good for the weekend, mate. Congratulations, Jacob Bellamy. You win your class in the boxers as we open up the opening day of the Next Gen New Zealand Championship, brought to you by Repco. Stick around. Lots still to come on day 1.